Is it possible to subjectively know internally when we're coherent at the level of the heart and at the level of the brain? And how does that connect to that present moment experience that you're describing right now?
Oh, I love the question. Let's see how I can say this in the simplest of ways. Um, when a person has gotten beyond themselves and they're no longer with their attention on their body and they become nobody, no longer their identity. They're not their name, they're not their gender, they're not their diet, they're not their profession, they're not a mother or father, they're no one. When they get beyond the things they own or the places they have to go and they get beyond time, when they become pure consciousness in that realm, if they do that properly, energy will, we see this, the moment that happens, the heart starts getting very coherent. The energy starts moving in the heart. And so now they start broadcasting a broader electromagnetic field. So now the heart's feeling more coherent, so they're feeling more in love, they're feeling more free. The heart then has a direct channel right to the brain, and all of a sudden the brain starts getting more coherent. But at the same time, when they're nobody, no one, no thing, nowhere, and no time, the different compartments of the brain that have been subdivided, they start to synchronize. And what syncs in the brain starts to link in the brain. So all of a sudden, you start getting this familiar feeling. It's a very familiar, unfamiliar feeling where you feel like you're connected. And so then when we do this properly, we're changing our state of being. We're creating a feedback loop between the brain and the heart. The heart is kind of our connection to the unified field. It's our center of oneness. It's the center of wholeness. So then when a person starts feeling that, it's not that they're feeling it with their body, because emotions like guilt and suffering and pain and anger and frustration, that's energy. Emotions are energy. Those are slower frequency energy. So it's lower emotion. It causes us to feel more dense, more like matter. The elevated emotions are more energy and less matter. So then when we get to this point, there's a lightness that's created. And I think, we measure this on our students. So we can tell them the moment they're connecting. We just had a great experience with one of the physicians that were at our event that had eczema since she was 3 months old, and all of a sudden her brain went into super coherence in gamma, globally, her whole entire brain. And the scientists that were measuring her thought she was having a seizure, but I had seen this before. And she was so connected and so profoundly moved by this energy of love, not chemical, but electric, that within one day, the next day, she sent us a picture of her arm that had eczema all over it for her whole adult life. Now, remember, she's a physician from London, does all the diet and all the cortisone creams and everything. And then the next day, there's no eczema on her arm anywhere. She got the upgrade. She's experiencing a greater level of wholeness. So that level of connectedness then causes us to feel less separation from everyone and everything. We feel connected. We feel more at one with everything. And so and from my experience now, there's always greater degrees of this, because as we move deeper into this unified field, we'll experience greater orderliness or wholeness or oneness. So, but the best way that I can describe it is that it is a very intense electric feeling that is like nothing I've ever experienced before. That's when I really nail it. Now, there are degrees of that where you just feel elevated and you feel connected, and you can focus your attention, that you can open your heart. It's easy. You can flow with it. That flow, that ease, is something that we're interested in more than anything else.
Excellent. And another question is about technology for being able to go into particular brainwave states. So I think this is about binaural beats. So what do you think about those kinds of audios that use binaural beats for being able to put a person more into an alpha brainwave state or a theta brainwave state and so on?
I like binaural beats. I like anything that helps to create coherence in the brain and alpha brainwave patterns. But I always say the same thing. Um, I don't subscribe to the idea that once you create these alpha brainwave patterns that you're going to be healthier and your life's going to be better. And I just think that it's a way to get there. Now, once you're there, then it's up to you to direct your attention and your intention to an outcome, whether you're healing your body, whether you want to create a mystical experience, whatever you want to create in your life. You have to, in order for you to heal your body, you got to get beyond your body. In order for you to create something new in your environment, you got to get beyond the memory of your problems in your environment. If you want to create some new future time, you got to get beyond your schedule and time. And so when we see people finally enter this state, and now they're there, now they can direct their attention. So we use some of the music, although we do a lot of live music at our events also, that has a lot of that kind of coherence in it, patterns in it, create coherence patterns. But I think that once you're there, then you still got to do the work. So I think it's a great tool, but I don't think it's the end all.
Fabulous. And one last question that comes up a lot. I think that there's several people that have been working on meditating and are just not getting the results, and they want to know how come it's not working for them. So perhaps you can share with us what your understanding is why it doesn't work for everybody, or why they're not doing it right, or where they're perhaps astray in their meditation for being able to be breaking the habit of being themselves.
Wow, and how much time do I have? Well, let me say this, that many people try, many people force, many people try to control, many people fight for it, many people hope. I mean, hope is a beggar. That we try to create from separation. And that means that they don't, people who say, I want to be healed, or I'm working on my healing and I hope I'm healing, or I hope I'm going to be more abundant, or I have the job of my dreams, they're actually still the old personality. They haven't become the person that they want to become. I know this because I've done it thousands of times. We return back to the common thoughts and emotional states and habits that keep us as that old personality. So then people, they work on creating their abundance, but then the moment they come back to their senses, or they're creating their health, and the moment they feel the pain back in their body, they're still not getting beyond their memory of themselves. So the number one reason, as far as I'm concerned, why people don't create the future that they want is because of those survival emotions, those stress emotions. And when people live by those addictive emotional states, they are separate from their dream. They're separate from whatever it is they want. So they're trying and hoping and wishing and forcing without without becoming it. So the act of overcoming, the act of overcoming, the act of overcoming to become something else is really what it's about. It's not about your wealth. It's about who you become. It's not about your health. It's about who you become. And I think there's not a lot of support in the world for us to do this. I think that we've been conditioned and hypnotized into believing we need something outside of us. But the students in our work that do it, and we have enough now to say that it's very possible, they understood that it took them 4 years to create their health condition because they had a really bad run for 4 years. They're gonna work on their health condition for 4 years, and they're not going to complain, and they're not going to get impatient, and they're not going to struggle. They understand that they have to regulate and signal new genes, and they can't get up as the same person who sat down. They understand what it takes because they've studied the work. And yeah, it took them 2 years or 3 years to heal their cancer and all their other conditions, but they did it, and they never missed a day. And they had days where they didn't feel like doing their meditation. They did it anyway. They had days where they had a lot of doubt because the doctor told them they were going to die. They did their meditation anyway. They had days where they were in a lot of fear because their values went up in one area. and they got beyond their fear, and they had days where they didn't believe in their future, but they never stopped doing the work. And many of them said, I'm going to teach my body emotionally how this future is going to feel like before it happens. Now that's the work, because now you're teaching your body emotionally what that future feels like. If you can understand and assign meaning to the fact that that emotion is going to signal the gene, by you intentionally doing it, you're going to produce a greater outcome. So it's not easy. If it was easy, everybody was doing it. But I can tell you now, without a doubt, that common people around the world are doing the uncommon, and they want their future more than they want their past. They're more in love with their future than they are with their past, and they're uncompromising. They walk it, they sit as it, they lay down as it, they stand as that person. They practice being that person. And gosh, I mean, there are people in our work that were living at the back of a car, and now their business is worth $50 million. I mean, they just never gave up on their vision. And I think that it's an infection. I think just like an infection creates a disease amongst the community, I think that health and wellness and abundance is as infectious as disease. And you see a person stand up and tell their story about how they healed themselves of a MS or lupus or cancer or Hashimoto's syndrome or chronic pain or whatever, and they tell the story from start to end, and they're not a vegetarian, and they don't wear all white, and they're not muscular and skinny, and they're not in their 30s, they're in their 60s, and it didn't go exactly the way they wanted to, but they never gave up. And you get the real life understanding of it. And then you see the brain scan and the HRV monitor, and you see the changes in oxytocin levels or immunoglobulin A levels, and we put that all together. The audience has to start saying, well, God, if it happened to her and she doesn't look much different than me, it could happen to me. And that's exactly what's happening. So you have people with rare genetic disorders that medical science said you're never going to heal. It's just impossible, that heal themselves. And person hears that person's testimonial, and then they heal themselves of that condition. And I think that there's just not a lot of evidence yet. And when it becomes normal, which is what my hope is, then we're not relying on things outside of us to really heal and to change. We have all the tools, and there are people that don't, but their quality of life improves or something else changes, and I just think that we're just going to get better at it over time. That's all.
All right, thank you so much. Well, this is D.S. Yvonne at reprogrammingminds.com, and I hope you enjoyed hearing those answers from Dr. Joe Dispenza. And for everyone that's been leaving comments and subscribing and liking, I appreciate all of that, and I look forward to sharing more with you in the future. Bye for now.